Hello humans, it's just Martine and welcome to part 2 of the teams round of Squash That series in the tournament bracket. That's a mouthful. Squash That series is a readathon created by Bailey from Is Bailey Reading and Kayla from Kayla Ray Reads, where we squash some series. We finish up some series, we focus on sequels. And right now we're in the middle of this tournament bracket. I lost the first week, you should check out that video here, but now I'm a cheerleader on Bailey's team. And this week the randomizer picked for us to replay the teams round. So Bailey and I have become a team and we are against Kayla and Gabby. And it is halfway through the event, actually more than that because yesterday was a whole day of reading that I didn't tell you about. The first 3 days of the event went crazy with how many books I was finishing, and so I started this new vlog to create a part 2, as it were. The current strategy is that we feel like we've kind of caught up to Kayla and Gabby after our last points update, and so we're working on getting through as many books as possible, getting to the last chapter, sitting on that last chapter, because we have one more points update where we will find out whether we're winning or losing against Kayla and Gabby. And we don't really want to show our whole hand, even if we are winning or are losing in that update. If we're losing, we can come back quickly with these close to finished books, and if we're winning, we don't want to become complacent and let them get a huge jump on that, so we're just holding on to the ends of books. There's a reason to be concerned here, I think, because up until this last points update, I feel like Kayla and Gabby were submitting and finishing books pretty frequently, and now they've kind of gone silent, and that could mean one of two things. It could mean that they're not reading, which is my preference, obviously, or it could mean that they have adopted our same strategy and are reading until the end of a book and then waiting. My concern with the idea of them doing that strategy is we have no way of knowing if that's a strategy they're doing, and we have no way of knowing how much they're hoarding for a final push, if that is the case. And that makes it a little stressful. So I'm trying to read as much as I can, but also not too much. Like, I did listen to music this morning instead of listening to my audiobook. I'm in the middle of several things. I will say, I think my proudest thing was that yesterday in my reading day, I got to the end of a 650 page book, and I have one chapter to read of that. So after the last push, I will read that and submit it, and that will be worth plus 200 points for me and minus a whole bunch of others for them. I think what's really great about the plus 200 for me is that as a cheerleader, my books are worth half as much as Bailey reading the same book, since she's the active player. And so I kind of feel like to keep up with her and help her to the best of my abilities, I need to read double the amount that she does. And so I'm really happy to have some bigger books in the works. And then I also am kind of planning a last push with some Magic Treehouse books on the last day, especially because our last points update is at noon on the final day, and submissions don't end until midnight that night. So I'm kind of hoping to fit in 6 Magic Treehouse books for 50 points each on that last day, but it kind of depends how that day goes with everything else in my normal life, because believe it or not, this is not all that I do. Sometimes I forget that too. I will say, let me turn you around and I'm going to tell you about a book, because actually yesterday morning I did finish one more book. I reviewed a ton of them at the end of my last vlog. You should check it out right here. But one that I read after the halfway point of the event was This Wicked Fate by Kaylin Bayron, which is the second book in the This Poison Heart duology. So I finished a series that's worth mega points. And yeah, that's good because it was only worth plus 50 points. I gave this 4 stars, which is half a star more than I gave the first book. I thought it wrapped up really nicely. I found it to be interesting, which is so big for it because it is technically a Greek mythology fantasy book. It is not a Greek mythology retelling, it just involves Greek mythology, and usually that's really not my thing. I felt like it was well done in this, not just the same characters that we get every time, not the same story that we get every time, and obviously a more diverse representative cast of characters, which I love to see. No shade to Percy Jackson, but even Rick Riordan has written more diverse books than his Percy Jackson series, so overall, I had a pretty fun time with that one. And I guess now that I'm fully updated, I can go back to reading. Let's do it. Hello, it's Tuesday, which means it's the last day of the teams round, and I'm freaking out a little because Kayla and Gabby have still been silent, so I have no idea what they're planning, and it's currently 12 p.m. my time, and we get our score update just to see which one of us is winning at 12 p.m. in Bailey's time zone, so in like an hour for me, and only after that can I start finishing books. I'll talk you through like what my strategy is for the rest of the day. I have a ton of books to finish and then some books to read in their entirety. The only physical book that I'm going to finish is the next book in the School for Good and Evil series. I have one chapter left of this. I have one chapter left in A Court of Silver Flames, which I'm listening to on audiobook. I have one chapter left of this one fantasy book that I'm reading on my iPad. I have 6 Magic Treehouse books that I can read. I actually started the first one of them last night and I only have a chapter left of that one. I have an Enola Holmes book that I'm like a third of the way through that I think I can get through today. And I have another audiobook, like a quick middle grade, that I'm like 10 minutes away from the end of. I think that's all of my plans. I'm just excited to see what happens. Nervous, but excited. Go Team Bailey. Hello, it's almost 5 p.m. and I just got kind of an interesting message from Bailey because I've been like going back and forth between schoolwork and reading this afternoon, and I've submitted some books, and so I have some reviews for you, and I was going to keep going, and then I like updated her on where I was, and she was like, stop, because she talked to Kayla, who we're against this week, and Kayla says she's not going to finish any more books tonight. So I'm just kind of waiting, I guess. And while I'm waiting, I can talk to you about books. I have finished 5 books today that I can talk to you about. So let's do it. The first is Smartest Kid in the Universe, book 3, Evil Genius. And I liked this better than the first 2 books. I don't know why. I literally cannot pinpoint why. So I gave this one 3 stars. It's just a fun time. Again, in this series, we're following this boy. He's kind of like a slacker in classes, and then one day he accidentally eats these ingestible knowledge jelly beans and becomes the smartest kid in the universe. And then I finished reading A Court of Silver Flames, which means I'm finally done with the Avatar series. I've been working on it for way too long. I mean, I read the 3rd book in 2021. I've been putting off this particular book for so long because I was worried about it. I knew that it was a very romance-heavy book in ways that I might not like, and I knew it was long. But I also knew that Nesta was one of my favorite characters from the rest of the series. So I was like, one day I'll just have to get around to it. And I gave it 2.5 stars. I was considering giving it a 3, but I'm ending on 2.5 just because I was confused at a lot of the fantasy elements and like the war elements throughout it still at times. But I do think this particular book had something that the rest of the series doesn't as much, which is very serious and good conversations about trauma and handling trauma, and I really liked how those conversations were done. So I have to give Sarah J. Maas some credit where credit is due, but otherwise I didn't care that much about this. I mean, I do like Nesta as a character, but it just is not super interesting to me. If you don't know, this series is about fairies. I don't know how to succinctly describe the ACOTAR series. Look on Book Talk, they can tell you better than me. I read 2 Magic Treehouse books, A Crazy Day with Cobras, which I gave 4 stars, and Dogs in the Dead of Night, which I gave 3.5 stars. Just hustling through with the Magic Treehouse read along. If you want more thoughts on that, stay tuned for our live show that'll happen in a couple weeks. Or I guess when you're seeing this, it might be about to happen. It might have also already happened. So regardless, check that out, I guess. And then finally, I finished reading this chunker, The Last Ever After, which is the 3rd book in the School for Good and Evil series, and technically the end of this arc, because this arc is called The School Years, and book 4 starts the Camelot years. So, and I'm giving this 4 stars. This was another instance in which this was my favorite book of the series so far. Same with the Smartest Kid in the Universe book. The basic premise of this series is that there's this school for good and evil, and these 2 girls go there, and they end up going to a different one than you'd necessarily consider just because one's pretty and one is like, I guess not, but I think they're both pretty. And so what I really like about this series as like a children's series is how it kind of combats the ideas of essentialism, that things are either one way or the other, and that there's like a lack of nuance, so either that things are entirely good or entirely evil. And the second book was like talking about girls versus boys, and this one was also another look at good versus evil, but also like relationships, and that was really nice. And this one, I think what I liked the best about it, because I like the theming of the whole series, but not necessarily the execution in all of this, but I really liked this one because in this one we get a lot more time with classic fairy tale characters, and I always think that's so fun when we get to see a twist on a classic character that we all know. So that was enjoyable. And also, since there was enough space, the author could have just done the same thing over and over and over, and he did that a little, but for the most part it just meant that there was actually time for the characters to develop and for things to get really interesting. So some of the things that happened shocked me, I'll be honest. I'm very pleased about that. And I guess we'll see tonight what the next game will be that we're playing, and I'll try and let you know. And then if I read anything else, I'll also let you know. But if not, then I'll come to end out this vlog and we'll see what happened. It just got announced that we're doing the Tears one, which was the first ever round of Squash That series. I did vlog that experience, like I participated in that round, and that was when I started using Bookly. But anyway, so you can check out my original vlogs for that here. Can't tell you who won yet for my team, so I guess I'll tell you that tomorrow and end this vlog and start that one. Okay, so the final score update came in and Bailey's team won! Go Bailey! So I'm going to continue following Bailey and being her cheerleader for the next week, but I'm going to end this vlog here. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below. Would you rather be an active player or a cheerleader? And subscribe for more reading, writing, and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!